what's going on? It's Coach Luca and
Coach Kelsey.
And what we're gonna go over today is, this is my favorite, I think, safest way to deadlift, is the Trap Bar Deadlift. And coaching cues. Here, the cool thing is that a lot of this will actually transfer to any deadlift, whether it's barbell, sumo, even like kettlebell, whatever it may be. But the Trap Bar Deadlift, I think if we could use one exercise, to build posterior chain strength, hamstrings, glutes, right, build strength, rib power, like this would be it, because just about anybody and everybody can do it. This specific bar, my favorite one is from Kabuki Strength. Like I said, honestly, it's just my favorite bar when it comes to trap bar, because it has two different handles, a thinner or a thicker one, depending on what you want to use. And we're gonna kind of put Kelsey through a trap bar deadlift, coach you up, and go through a lot of different cues. All right, now, so here's the deal. These cues are gonna do a couple of things. One, make it a very, very safe lift. Number two, also enhance performance, right? Because if you have, I would say, tension in the right places and you're locked in, you're gonna be able to not only, lift safer, but you're gonna be able to lift more, okay? So we're just gonna go rock and roll and just kind of actively coach Kelsey. She's just do a lot of reps. Not psych. You're gonna do enough reps. But number one is the setup for any deadlift is gonna be Kelsey standing inside of the hex bar and pushing, like the analogy that I like is closing the car door with your butt, right? So imagine if you ever have groceries and you go like this, right? You close the car door with your butt. That's your thought process. You're gonna go push the butt back, and you gotta see the logo on the chest, right? So I wore this shirt on purpose too, because there's a logo on the chest, so that on a deadlift, when I go down, you can still see the logo on the chest, right? If I'm here, this is a RDL now, which is a fine lift, but on the deadlift, I have to see the logo on the chest, which means I'm sitting into my glutes, right? So for Kelsey, if she had a logo right here, she's gonna close the car door with her butt, and I'm gonna see the logo on the chest. Now, one quick thing, for most people, they're what's called extended, okay? So extended is, it's like Instagram butt, right? But it's that we have this big arch in our low back, and actually a lot of people have them, right? So you're here, and if you go down now into this deadlift position, it can really overwork that low back. So another cue that almost everybody I like to do with is this reach out. So Kelsey's gonna do this. You're gonna think about it. You're gonna push your butt back to the wall, right? Close the door with your butt, but you're gonna push your hands forward. So you're gonna go like this, even at the top. So come back up. You're gonna go and breathe out and reach, okay? Nice. Now in that position, go down, reach, and then just grab the handles. Bam. Okay? So in that position, what's happened is that when you reach, and you can look at my rib cage, let's say I'm extended, and if I reach, you see how my rib cage goes back? So now my rib cage is in a good position, right? So I'm here, I'm reaching, my rib cage comes down, and now we have this good position of ribs to pelvis. Abs are on, and my low back is not overworked here in this position. Okay, so Kelsey, you're gonna go butt back, reach, grab the handles, and then we're gonna go from there on the coaching side of things.
And you had mentioned something about shoes.
I'm glad you brought this up. So actually, perfect example. So Kelsey's we both got like cushiony shoes on, okay? If you have a chance, if you go to the big box gym, for instance, I think some places they tell you can't take your shoes off. If you can, do so. Because the thing is, one of the worst things that's happened to our feet is shoes. Right? Imagine putting gloves on for a year and then trying to do stuff. Your hands would get weak. You wouldn't have good proprioception. Same thing happens with the feet. And the thing is, Kelsey can't grab the floor with her feet, and the feet have a lot of, I would say, strength. When you grab the floor, all of this fires up. Okay, so she's gonna take her shoes off, and like I said, if you can, I'd highly encourage you to do that. I promise you too, you'll feel stronger, right? Because when you start deadlifting, ripping the floor apart, squeezing the floor with your feet, big difference. Okay?
Shoes off.
Shoes off. Watch, this performance is gonna skyrocket right now. All right, so butt's gonna go back. You're gonna reach as much as possible. Good, grabbing the handles. And so remember, I wanna be able to see the logo on your chest. So a little bit more, yes, there we go. Okay, cool. Now, here's another cue. If she had an orange in her armpit, I'd want her to squeeze that orange. So squeeze that orange, good. So this makes her lats turn on, okay? From there, she's gonna brace for the punch and now push the ground away. And push, and get nice and tall. Nice. And back down to that same position. And let's go one more time. Crush, crush, crush the orange, brace. Pop through, good. Keep pushing the ground away all the way to the top. and break. Great job, right? So difference, right? If you don't, like for instance, crush the orange, now you don't have lats turned on. If you're bracing for the punch, now you have core, right? So we're kind of going through a sequence, right? Imagine that, close to here there's the Boeing factory where they make planes and they have a checklist. Every time you have to go through a checklist to go to the next step of building the plane. So you have to think of the deadlift and trap bar deadlift as a checklist, okay? So you're gonna go close the car door with your butt, push your butt back, reach forward, grab the handles. Then you're gonna squeeze the orange with your armpits. You're gonna brace your abs for a punch. You're gonna look about 3 feet in front of you, and then you're gonna push the ground away, right? So your thought process is pushing the ground and not pulling, because if you pull with your back, okay? Now a couple little extra tweaks here that we're gonna do too. Kelsey's gonna go through that same sequence, okay? So she's gonna butt back, reach out, but we're gonna get a little bit more tension and a little bit more performance out of her here now, okay? So at the bottom, her feet are like this, but I'm gonna have her think like she's trying to rip the floor apart. So if she was standing on a towel and she was trying to rip it, or on toilet paper, trying to rip it apart. So her knees are actually gonna go into her forearms, okay? So she's gonna crush the orange here. You're gonna look 3 feet in front of you. You're gonna brace for the punch, push the knees out, and now you're gonna push the ground away. Nice. Let's do one more. Long elbows. And break. That feel a little bit better?
Yeah, definitely.
So what that does is, if you can actually look at my hip, if I'm just pushing the ground, okay, you don't see my I would say, muscles turn on here in the glutes. But as soon as I try to rip the floor apart, you can see all these muscles turning on, right? So I'm actually using more of my glutes now in that position, okay? Now, one last thing on this, I would say, part of bracing your abs. Taking air into your belly before you go, which is a little bit of a, I would say, practice, because you have to essentially, take air and blow I always say, if you have a belt on, imagine blowing air into your belt, right? So that's one of the safest things you can do in a deadlift, is to be able to take that air in here and then brace on top of it, okay? So we're gonna do one last set on this. And here's the thing, most people will breathe here, right? So they'll get ready and go, and now I'm losing abs, right? And I'm extending more. But if I take it into down here, it's like a natural belt. And everybody understand that, like if you put a belt on when you're deadlifting heavy, right? It has its purpose, has its place. But how can we get a natural belt for core strength? Is we take air into the belly, then we brace on top of it, right? I always say, hey, brace for the punch. So take air in, brace for the punch. Now you're super solid, and it protects your low back, and now you're gonna use your hips more, okay? So we're gonna go through that whole sequence, and we're gonna implement all those little things that we just did right there, okay? So butt goes back, close the car door, reach forward. Gonna take an extra deep breath into the belly, crush the orange, brace, push the knees out. That's looking crisp. Nice, let's go, let's get one more rep. And break. Nice.
Felt way better.
Perfect example, perfect example. Now Kelsey already has, one of the things is, Kelsey has a really good neck position, so I don't really have to coach her out, out of that. But one of the things that does happen in the deadlifts is that at the bottom, people will crank their neck. So when you're in the bottom position, they'll look forward. And you can see my neck position here, where I'm cranking that neck. And that's actually, I would say, shutting down some of the nervous system that drives, I would say, are pushing the ground away, okay? So instead of being here, we want to look 3 feet in front of us and think like somebody's pulling us by a string. So my neck is an extension of my spine. So when I come up, the neck comes along for the ride. Boom, boom, right? Very important thing, because once again, if I crank my neck, it's gonna curve my lower back, and now I'm gonna get more stress and pressure in the lower back, okay? So no matter what trap bar you're using, going through that sequence and practicing that sequence, this is what's also important. Let's say Kelsey started with 25s and then 45s. She kept going up to her heaviest weight. From the get-go, even with the lightest weight, you wanna make sure that you have this type of focus, sequencing, and not just be like, oh, this is light, I'm just gonna go pick it up and, right, warm up. No, you gotta have that type of drilling for every rep, because what happens is that once things get heavier, you're going to have excellent form, right? But if you practice crappy form going up to heavy, when it gets heavy, you're gonna have crappy form, okay? So with that said, implement this into the next time you're trap bar deadlifting. Take your shoes off, even if you're in the gym. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And let us know how it goes. Like I said, how does the deadlift feel after you went through these cues? And like I said, give us some feedback. I'd love to hear from you. We'll see you in the next coaching video. Peace out.